But I still would like to introduce Pandit Dasa, who, and again, there's bios, full bios in your handouts, and Avinta Kilawan. And where did Ayushi go? Oh, Ayushi Street back there. And I won't say everything that there is to say about their work. Again, there's more information in your handouts. But just to, as I've done for other panel discussions, just to talk very briefly about this, a bit of the kind of range of the diversity of Hindu life in New York that I've tried to bring together in this conversation. There's important kind of ethnic and national diversity within Hindu communities in New York, with Hindus whose roots are directly to India, and then many, I think, what's about the percentage of Caribbean Hindus? A ton. 30, 40, 50. Jack, do you have a very large minority of Hindu New Yorkers whose roots are via the Caribbean, where a huge number of Indians were brought as indentured laborers in the 19th century, and then there's thriving Hindu communities in Guyana, Trinidad, and elsewhere. So Aminta is of Guyanese background. And then also some of the kind of doctrinal diversity within the Hindu communities of New York. Pandit is, I don't know if you're still very closely connected with ISKCON? Yeah. Okay. Is very closely connected with ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, AKA the Hare Krishnas, which is not the best term, but it's an important element within distinctively American and also global Hindu life, and that's part of Pandit's background. But then also, I think what's important is that, our three panelists, I don't want to kind of like restrict in advance what they're going to address. They can speak to whatever issues they want, but their kind of background of their work is, I think, very interestingly kind of divided in that, Pandit's work has focused above all, not only, but above all, I think, on the kind of spiritual and meditative elements of Hindu life. Ayushi's work is in sacred arts, in dance and performance, and the kind of arts and culture as an element of American Hindu life. And Avinta's work, again, not only, I don't want to put anyone in boxes, but has been focused largely on the kind of social justice and community activist strands within American Hindu life. So they're each welcome to speak to that or anything else that's on their mind. And with no further ado, Pandit, thank you. I just one more further ado. I should say the one centrally important form of community leadership that's not in this panel is a clergy person. I used to look at, Pandit was a monk for a long time, but is no longer a monk. So we don't have a Hindu clergy member on the panel. We will. You're still a priest. Oh, okay, we do have a Hindu clergy member. My mistake. We'll also speak with one of the priests at the Ganesh Temple this afternoon to sort of bring in that perspective of Hindu community life. And now, with really no further ado, however you want to do. Okay, go for it.
So, thank you. I'm happy to be back. As Rudy was mentioning, I lived as a Hindu monk or Hare Krishna monk for about a period of 15 years. As you can tell by my attire, I'm no longer a monk. Before I was wearing saffron orange robes, as you were probably, how many of you here, I'm sure all of you, I'm guessing, are familiar with the Hare Krishna movement? See them, Hare Krishna in airports or sitting in parks and chanting and meditating, things like that, right? So I lived as a Hindu monk or Hare Krishna monk for 15 years, of all places, not in India or anywhere else, but on the Lower East Side of New York City, which is where actually the Hare Krishna movement has its foundation in America. On 2nd Avenue between 1st and 2nd Street, you go to this small storefront, tiny storefront, where the movement was registered literally 50 years ago last Thursday. It's the 50th anniversary of this being registered in New York. So this is where it actually started. So New York is the foundational place of the movement starting. And earlier in the 60s and 70s and even 80s, you would see a lot of Hare Krishna monks, or Hare Krishnas as monks. A majority of them were monks. So you would see them a lot in the streets, chanting and dancing and singing and now a lot of monks from the hippie days have decided to get married. So you don't see so many of us out there. One comment that I constantly get is, hey, I don't see you guys out there so much anymore. I'm like, yeah, a lot of us just got married. Now you might be sitting next to a Hare Krishna monk at your office. And the other thing that's happened over the last 5 decades is, in the 60s and 70s, when the movement first came here, there just weren't that many Indians. Like if you go to a Hare Krishna ISKCON temple now, 80% of the people congregants are Indians. So the engineering, the tech guy might be a Hare Krishna in your company, or in your school. So now you don't see that the demographic has shifted pretty significantly. Now there's just so many Indians everywhere, and Hare Krishna temple is one of the places that they go to, along with any other temples. So the demographic shifted in terms of the number of Indians, and also that a lot of the monks have decided to get married, and that was just kind of what I decided to do. While I was a monk, people always wondered why I became a monk, and now I'm no longer a monk, so people want to know why I'm no longer a monk. Why I became a monk, we'll show you in a short video, which is a little bit actually my book trailer, so you'll see why I wrote the book and what the book is about. And why I'm no longer a monk is basically, I just felt like having a family at home. This was in 1999 to 2014, I was a monk. I felt the need to have a family. Most of the other monks who were in the student phase of monastic life decided to transition out of the student phase and decided to get married, go back to school, go to get jobs, whatever it may be. And so there was a period of about a year when I didn't have much companionship in the monastery. I was kind of alone for about a year. And I said, okay, this is too hard, being in New York, he was on my own. Everybody needs some kind of companionship and friendship and camaraderie. So when that kind of finished, I said, okay, I think I'm going to move on. And actually, this Saturday I'm getting married. So Professor Holly just saw me, his jaw just dropped down, and couldn't believe that I was no longer a monk, because we've known each other for about 15 years. And so for a good period of this time when I was a monk, I was the first Hindu chaplain Columbia University has ever had. I did that from about 2001 to 2012 or something like that. I still serve as a Hindu chaplain at New York University, and I'm currently the interfaith chaplain here at Union Theological. So basically people of all faiths can kind of come to me. And while I was a chaplain at Columbia University, I did a variety of things. I would introduce the tradition of Hinduism and the Hare Krishna movement. I'll use these terms interchangeably because it's part of the greater Hindu umbrella. I would introduce the tradition through a variety of different means. One was I was doing a vegetarian cooking class every single week. That became one of the most popular events on campus because we feed everybody afterwards, and Hare Krishnas are really popular for their good food. You may not like our philosophy, you may not like our chanting, but you almost everybody loves the food. So that's okay, as long as somebody loves you for one reason or another, that's good. So we were getting about 100 students every week for the cooking classes. People were having a great time learning to cook. We feed everybody. I was doing weekly meditation sessions where students would come and learn to meditate, silent meditation, breathing, mantras. And I was also doing a weekly study group of the Bhagavad Gita, one of the main spiritual texts of Hinduism. So these were the 3 weekly events I was doing, and it became very popular. I was the only guy walking around in saffron cloth on campus, and a lot of people got to know us because of the very interesting and fun and spiritual events that we were kind of organizing. Now, I do a lot more, no longer a monk, and I have to think about making money. Now I'm doing a lot of mindfulness meditation training in corporations. So that's kind of been a little bit of my own personal journey and my own transition. And one quick thing that I'll mention about one or two things that distinguish Hare Krishna philosophy from a lot of other Hindu philosophies is we are very much focused on a monotheistic God. We believe that there is one God for not just all the Hindus, but for the whole planet. You can call him Krishna, you can call him Rama, you can call him Vishnu, you can call him Allah, you can call him Yahweh, you can call him Jehovah. But it's like the people from these different traditions are praying, the same person is hearing those prayers. It's not like, okay, the Muslims have their own God, and he's only listening to their prayers, and the Hindus are praying to another God, and only their God's only listening. No, it's the same God. And we also understand that the same God has sent prophets and teachers to all parts of the world. So it's not that we only have one prophet, or only the Muslims have a prophet, or only the Christians have a prophet. God's sending teachers to everyone. Like, okay, now hopefully you'll connect with one of them. That's kind of the hope. You'll connect with one of them, you'll resonate with one of them. So that's one thing that, whereas in broad Hinduism, most people understand it to be polytheistic. You can worship a lot of gods. And so we're, in the Hare Krishna movement, we acknowledge the existence of the other gods. Our main focus is on Krishna. And the reason our main focus is on Krishna is we understand that's the most intimate aspect of God. Because if you look at pictures of Krishna, he's playing a flute, and he's dancing and he's singing. Right? No weapons in hand, not very threatening, very kind of childlike and playful. And we actually understand in the deepest level of theology that God is actually simple, playful, likes to sing and likes to dance. Most people, popular people in school, usually are musicians. Right? God's like the ultimate musician. Right? If you can dance, you're going to be popular in school. God's the ultimate dancer. Why should we do that? And we also understand that Krishna isn't just one who likes to be served and worshipped, but that he likes to serve and also worship his devotees. Like Arjuna on the battlefield. What's he doing? This is God. He's taking orders from his friend for 18 days of the chariot ride. There's another story where Krishna actually worships one of his childhood friends, Sudama, who comes to visit him. Krishna worships him and offers him gifts and offers kind words. He actually really worships. So here's a God that isn't just about being worshipped, but he himself gets a lot of pleasure in serving and worshiping others. So that was a concept that was really interesting to me. I didn't grow up in the Hare Krishna movement. I grew up just as a Hindu and did standard Hindu worship and pujas and had an altar at home. This is something when I read the Bhagavad Gita from Srila Prabhupada, it just made sense to me, the idea of one God, the concept of a compassionate, loving God who you can worship without the idea of fearing God. That kind of resonated with me. So that's a little bit about the tradition and my story, and I'll go ahead and play this short video that'll just talk to you about a little bit about my book and my journey into monkhood. Pandit Dasa, and the name of the book is Urban Monk, Exploring Karma, Consciousness, and the Divine. When most people think of what a monk is, the first thing that comes to their mind is mountain peaks, forests, a beautiful monastery in the middle of nowhere. I live surrounded by nightclubs, bars, tattoo shops, laundromats, subway stations, bus stations, and non-stop foot traffic. A lot of monks do live in the city for the purpose of helping others find a more balanced way to live. Every day I'm talking with people I work as a religious life advisor or a chaplain, and part of that responsibility involves talking to people, listening to them, listening to their problems, helping them come up with solutions to their problems, helping them lighten the load of all the difficulties that they're going through. I didn't write the book with the idea of publishing it. It started as a journal because I wanted to reflect on my own life. I decided to turn my journal into a book because I thought maybe that me sharing my story would inspire others to perhaps also turn towards spirituality in difficult times. The book goes through my own journey, growing up in Southern California, where my parents lose their multi-million-dollar business, which forces us to move to East Europe. Being so uprooted from my society and my culture and my lifestyle that I had in LA, it was a very difficult time, very uncertain time. And so I decided to explore the Bhagavad Gita, one of the main spiritual texts of India, to understand why all this is happening to me. Why am I suffering so intensely? And at that moment, the Bhagavad Gita really gave me answers that I was looking for. It gave me solace. It actually gave me hope. A lot of times when people go through difficulties in their lives, we just become fixated on trying to fix the problem. Find a quick solution so the suffering goes away, so the pain goes away. However, that's not really getting to the core of the problem, which is deep within inside. One of the things I try to help people understand is the nature of their own mind, and that if we can actually nourish the mind, feed the mind through meditation, and exercise the mind. But when you meditate, the mind wanders and you know that it just went somewhere. Then you have to bring it back. And that bringing it back is an exercise. It's like, I like to think of it as push-ups for that mind. What I'm really hoping is that people will be inspired through this book to give their spirituality a serious chance, not only when they're struggling, but when things are good also.
You know, just to keep it as much a part of your life as breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Make spirituality a part of the everyday experience.
I'll just close with a couple of quick statements. So, you know, and my book is basically my journey, how I went from living a really lavish lifestyle in LA, becoming a monk and sleeping on the floor, a hardwood floor in India, before the other monks. So it explains, and as teachers, I've had several high school teachers and some college teachers also utilize this book because it's an Indian American growing up here and who ends up living that really traditional lifestyle. And it covers many concepts of Hinduism, monotheism, polytheism, different types of meditation, you know, the idea of vegetarianism, the Hindu diet, yoga. So I kind of address all of the things, I hope I address all of the things that a teacher or a student learning about Hinduism would want to learn about. So more of my story, the details are in here. And then I guess when we have a Q&A, we can ask more specific questions. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay.